One of the good things about jumping on an international flight is you get a chance to binge a Netflix series.
You should pick up a book sometime.
And that's exactly what I did with Living with Yourself. This is a new show that stars Paul Rudd and Paul Rudd.
Are you okay? Do I need to come down?
No, it's fine.
You can almost hear the pitch meeting at Netflix, because everybody loves Paul Rudd. You love Paul Rudd, right, Blake?
Yeah, he's okay.
Yeah, what? He's just okay? No, he's the best. He's such a cool guy, and he's so charming that you can almost hear the pitch at Netflix. It's like, how about if we made a show with Paul Rudd, but we get two Paul Rudds? We get a whole other extra Paul Rudd, and that's the whole idea with this show.
I hate you! I am you! Oh!
It's a concept where Paul Rudd plays this down-and-out advertising executive who has sort of been ground down by life, and he doesn't really have any joy in his work, and he's got a kind of a rocky relationship with his wife, played by Aisling B., and takes a suggestion from his friend who says, go to this spa and you will feel rejuvenated. So he does, and of course the spa turns out to be a cloning facility housed in a strip mall. And so they make another Paul Rudd. And the whole series starts off with Paul Rudd buried alive underground, and he breaks out, and he's got a plastic bag over his head, and he's got a diaper on, and he busts out of the dirt, and he has to run around almost naked trying to figure out what's happening with him. And he gets home, and he sees this other Paul Rudd, who is a superior human being. It's a happy-go-lucky Paul Rudd with a big smile on his face, and he's got great ideas at work, and he has a much more romantic relationship with his wife. And of course, this freaks out the old Paul Rudd in innumerable ways. One of the prime ones being that he becomes insanely jealous of this new Paul Rudd, who does everything better than him.
You want me out of your life? Make me. Stop it.
So we see that sort of confrontation between these two characters, and the effects are done quite convincingly, and there's some great acting between the various versions of Paul Rudd. But I'll tell you something, this show would not work at all if it were not for Aisling B., who plays Paul Rudd's wife, and she's incredible, so soulful and so grounded, and just a wonderful person in the show, and she feels like she's part of a living and breathing relationship with the beaten down Paul Rudd. You can see the years in their interplay, and it's really wonderful stuff. And I hope that she gets some kind of Emmy nomination when they're looking at all this stuff, because this show would just not exist properly if it were not for this wonderful actor who carries on her Irish accent. She plays a character that's from Ireland, and obviously the actor is from Ireland.
Maybe he has a brain tumor.
Inoperable, I hope.
They worked that into the plot, and I thought that was clever and cool, and also a showcase for the way that the world is today. People from all over the world are cohabitating and making big dramatic moves like that. I thought that was great, and it added a unique sensibility to everything. You know, it's not just this typical white bread Americana in the suburbs kind of thing. There is more to these lives. And that's what's examined in the show is, how do we kind of work our way through our ups and downs, and how do we examine ourselves?
How can you be sure that you are you?
Done in a funny, off-kilter, twisted kind of way, which I think Paul Rudd is reveling in. I was also incredibly impressed by the amount of physicality that Paul Rudd kind of injects into both performances, and the slapstick skill set that he has got as a performer. This is obviously topical, heady stuff as cloning becomes something that feels more and more like a possibility in our real world. So this was a smart show.
You're welcome.
This was a funny show, a smart show with good performers, but as great as Paul Rudd is, I think the standout here is Aisling B., who makes the most out of the role that she's given, and she is the heart and soul of the show.
Okay.
The 8 episodes of the first season fly by very quickly, and there's a big cliffhanger at the end, so presumably there will be more, and I am down for more. I think this show is well worth your time, and something tells me that if you give it your time, you're going to watch them all in pretty much one sitting.
Make me.
I'm going to give Living with Yourself an 8.5 out of 10.